I know there's going to be a discussion on, is she the greatest female basketball player ever? Here's my issue with that discussion. When it comes to talking about the greatest NBA players ever, I feel like I am able to accurately and intelligently discuss players that I never watched live because I have the ability to go back and watch almost anything from the 80s on. And so maybe I can't fairly evaluate Wilton Russell, but I can fairly evaluate, more about half of Kareem's career, all of Magic, all of Bird, all of Michael, all of that. Cheryl Miller is probably the leading contender historically for the greatest female player ever. All I can do is watch clips and read her Wikipedia. Like I can't go back and watch her the way I could watch men's pro basketball of the same era. So, and obviously, the greatest players at Tennessee in the 90s and a long list of UConn women's Huskies over the last 20 years, from Taurasi to Breanna Stewart, all have a credible case. So I don't know if Caitlin Clark's the greatest female basketball player ever. My money would be on Juju getting there. I do know this. Caitlin Clark is revolutionary in the attention she has brought to the sport. The eyeballs she has brought to the sport and the way she has risen to the occasion every time the spotlight's been on her.
She's like Lady Curry.
And
people like three-pointers.
Well, yes. And she has a lot of stylistic similarities to Steph. All of these men's players who have come up trying to emulate Steph, she has succeeded more than any of them. Like Trae Young takes a lot of the same shots Steph does, but you look at his shooting percentages, you look at his efficiency, it's not there. Her passing plus her off the bounce, off balance, range shooting, she is the closest to Steph.
Off-ball movement as well, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great
She's
point. What she does
around
when she doesn't have the ball. Right, the constant movement, all of it, the relocating. So I do think last night was a transcendent moment in women's sports history. And it brings me to what I wonder is going to happen with Caitlin Clark and the stars and the WNBA. Because I sent DeMonte a text yesterday that seems make-believe what I sent him, but I'm going to read it to you directly from USA Today, which is right now, if you're listening, give it a guess what Caitlin Clark, as the number one pick of next year's WNBA draft, will make. I promise you, whatever number you're guessing, you're far too high. So the number one pick of last year's WNBA draft, and so it was Aaliyah Boston. I'm going to read you her exact salary. So again, this will go up by a tick. Aaliyah Boston got a 3-year, $230,000 contract. That is not per season, that is total. The number one pick of last year's WNBA draft, her salaries are as follows: $74,000, $76,000, $83,000, and then a team option for $94,000. So that's what Caitlin Clark is going to make from the Indiana Fever next year. So there are a lot of elements to that and economics to it, and how profitable is the league should the players get a larger share of the revenue pie as they do in the NBA, all of it. I don't actually care to have that conversation right now. The conversation I do care to have is this. If the NBA and the WNBA care about ensuring that they continue the momentum from the women's college game and don't have their stars going overseas to play, as so many have, most famously, obviously, Brittany Griner, who then got locked up for a year plus while playing in Russia, but so many of the greats play overseas. They have to find a way to make this make sense. Because people can say, well, Caitlyn's going to make so much money off endorsements. She's going to make, however much she's going to make off endorsements is going to exist, whether she makes 75 grand or 750 grand in the WNBA. But the individual player max for the WNBA is $250,000, and Caitlin Clark averaging 80 grand a year for the first 3 years of her career. That's not a sustainable business model. And somebody is going to see that and create a competing all-star league that is going to pay the actual stars that get developed in college basketball real money, and then the WNBA is cooked. If the WNBA has a chance to use this, right, exactly right. What Ice Cube talked about, or somebody like the America loves stars, and we now have a bunch of female college stars. And I'm not saying they have to all make millions of dollars, but 80 grand a year for Caitlin Clark ain't going to cut it, guys. Just not. And it also will create situations where if your team is paying you 80 and Nike's paying you $1 million, who do you work for? You don't work for your team. You work for Nike. There will be, if your team is paying you 80 and you're offered 50 to give a speech. Team's paying you 80 for the year and you're offered 50 grand to give a speech that conflicts with something your team needs to do. Well, sorry guys. Like, there are real things that happen here. And so that is something that the NBA and the WNBA need to figure out, because you can't squander this moment. And we have seen in men's sports, when the NBA was not financially what it is now, the ABA takes advantage and gets stars. When the NFL was not financially what it is now, the USFL, Steve Young, Reggie White, Doug Flutie, Warren Moon, stars. You can't have the league's talent pool diluted. So I really, really hope that on the professional level, they take advantage of the fact that you are going to have, over the next few years, names coming into your league. Caitlin, Angel, Paige, Juju, all coming into your league that people will want to see. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.